Shaquille O'Neal recently made some shocking revelations about his health. His statement revealed just how badly his health and fitness have fallen apart, and what he had to say was really scary. Earlier this month, Shaq finally opened up about what has been going on in an interview with Entertainment Tonight. He talked about feeling like he had become, in his words, chubby, but the truth was far scarier than that. He shared that he was actually having trouble just walking up the stairs. He was a long way off from being at a weight he was happy with, and he started to feel like he didn't like the way he looked in the mirror. Shaq explained that his problems came from some pretty bad habits that he had started to pick up. He said that his eating habits in particular had become really unhealthy. Growing up as an athlete, he would often eat fast food and fried food without gaining a single pound. This was because anything he ate, he would just burn off in training or playing basketball. And it wasn't until he got older that he understood just how damaging that really was. He made it clear that he had a lot of regrets about taking so long to learn this important lesson. Shaq admitted that he wished that he had paid more attention to it earlier. Until recently, he apparently didn't even know what the difference was between a carb and a protein, even though he was 50 years old. He also said that his elite athlete mentality had actually made things worse. He explained that he was such a mental warrior that none of that stuff mattered to him. He didn't take his diet seriously until he looked in the mirror around 6 or 7 years after retiring from the NBA. He said that he looked terrible. He called himself really fat and said that he had no definition. To be honest, he was pretty brutal about himself, but it wasn't just Shaq who had started noticing a change in his appearance. He said that he got a call from a friend of his, and it sounded like a pretty crazy phone call. His friend straight up told him that she called him to tell him that he was fat. She then gave him a number to call and get some blood work done. He was then told about the long list of things that were wrong with him. Shaq learned that his iron was really low and that he needed to eat more vegetables. He said that as an athlete, he had never really been a salad eater, but after starting to hate what he saw when he looked at himself, Shaq was ready to change. And thanks to his elite mentality, he has managed to turn things around in a crazy way. His doctor told him all about the things he could and couldn't do anymore. And once he started to change those things, his weight just dropped. He revealed to Entertainment Tonight that he'd lost an amazing 55 pounds. He got down to 351, which was only 6 pounds heavier than he was when he won his first NBA championship in 2000. For a guy in his 50s, this sounded seriously impressive. However, according to Shaq, he's not done yet. He has admitted that he set some pretty crazy goals for himself. But what's even more shocking is how often he has shot right past his goals and kept going. He claimed that he had initially only aimed to lose 20 pounds, but his goal changed and he continued to lose weight for months and months. He also said that he fully expected to get down to somewhere between 315 and 350 pounds. So basically back to his weight at the peak of his career. He also said that he wanted to get himself a 12-pack. He joked that he probably only had a 5-pack right now, so he had 7 more to go. Shaq showed off how he was progressing in a video he recently shared on Instagram. The video was pretty dramatic. Shaq was shown ripping off his gray tank top and flexing his muscles. He then pulled a bunch of bodybuilding poses in front of the camera. And it was great to see that Shaq was clearly having a lot of fun on his weight loss journey. He even tagged former bodybuilding champion Phil Heath in the post. Shaq compared himself to the 7-time Mr. Olympia and claimed that he was almost there again. What was so great about Shaq's health kick was that it obviously wasn't just for superficial reasons. He told People magazine that he felt like he had a lot more energy. He felt really good about the fact that he got to do stuff that he had not done in a while. He also appreciated how much more disciplined he had become. But what's crazy is that his discipline didn't mean that he was actually eating any less. Instead, he just changed what he was eating. Shaq said that he had always eaten around 4 or 5 meals a day, but in the past, at least 4 of those meals would have been junk meals. So while he continued to eat plenty of food, he made sure that it was only good food. He also said that he was doing cardio 3 times a week as well as weight training. His dedication to his health has been pretty insane. Just 2 weeks after undergoing hip surgery, Shaq was back in the gym. After several years of letting things slide, Shaq has been determined not to waste any more of his life on bad habits. But there's actually another possible reason why Shaq has refocused in such an amazing way. And it's actually pretty heartbreaking. Shaq recently revealed that he had some major regrets when Kobe tragically passed away. And it's honestly so devastating to hear about what he wishes he could change. You'll never believe what he had to say. Shaq made an appearance on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast. They discussed a lot of topics in what was mainly a fun, lighthearted conversation. But there was one moment when Shaq took the exchange to a much sadder place. And it is truly saddening, but also inspirational. When Logan's co-host, George Janko, began a question by telling Shaq he'd fallen out with his dad, Shaq cut him off to give him a word of advice. He told George that whatever his disagreement with his dad had been about, he had to call him and tell him that he loved him. That was the only thing that mattered. What he said next was devastating to hear. Shaq explained that one of his biggest regrets is that he never made the same call to his former teammate and rival, Kobe, before he tragically passed passed away. He went on to say that it had been easy for him to make excuses to put off calling Kobe because of his extremely busy schedule until it was tragically too late. We know that the passing of Kobe was a horrible moment for so many people around the world. But for someone like Shaq, who knew him personally and shared so many memories with him, I can't even imagine what it must have felt like for him to realize he was never going to get to make that call. And he didn't want George or anybody else to make the same mistake he felt he had. It looks like Shaq learned an important lesson from his painful regrets about Kobe. He has made a decision not to let any of the things that matter in his life slip through his fingers ever again. When he and Kobe played together, they were one of the most successful duos in the history of the NBA. But they were also famously different characters on and off the court. While Shaq was known to be relaxed and fun-loving, Kobe infamously had the most intense work ethic in the sport. Maybe Shaq has decided to honor his friend by putting in the hard work he needed to take back control of his own life. But what do you guys think? Are you inspired by Shaq turning his health concerns around? Let me know in the comments below.